San Diego is something of a beer mecca, drawing people from around the world with nearly 70 licensed breweries, making an exceptionally diverse array of craft beers. But it's difficult for someone like myself to appreciate this when I've never developed a taste for beer. To make matters worse, one of my friends, Jim Crute, owns a brewery and keeps pressing a point about beer and culture.
There's a type of culture in beer, and that is to say there's obviously yeast in beer, and that's the culture. And there's obviously a type of scene in San Diego associated with beer enthusiasts that constitute, I think, their own subsection of current US culture. However, I always do wonder whether arts and culture reporters recognize that there is culture in beer, true American culture in beer.
Well, that sounds like a challenge. So I decided to head on over to the Lightning Brewery to see if I could develop an appreciation for beer and its culture. Crute started Lightning Brewery in 2005. His breakout beer, Thunder Weizen Ale, has won gold ribbons at the California State Fair 2 years in a row, and his Old Tempestuous Ale won Best in Show. Lightning is located in a Poway business park and has 8 employees. Its beers are now distributed as far north as LA and as far east as Arizona. Crute comes to beer from a background in biochemistry.
Biochemistry and beer. Well, of course, biochemistry was founded in the beer trade and was founded in the fermentation sciences. Louis Pasteur was the first biochemist. He actually reconstituted the first cell-free biochemical system. So being a biochemist, beer comes naturally to me, and I've been brewing beer since I was a young graduate student, over half a lifetime ago now.
That's why Crute chose Better Beer Through Science as his slogan.
And what better beer through science means is not that we add chemicals to the beer or that we have extraneous things added into the beer other than the four basic ingredients of water, malted grain, hops, and yeast. It's that we use basic scientific thinking in order to figure out how to not add everything else on top of that.
But sometimes Crute wants to do a little experimentation.
And what I decided this year was I would start making some small scale, handcrafted, truly handcrafted beers that I would make and that we would only sell at the brewery. And so this is the way science works. You have an idea, and then you make a hypothesis based on your idea, and then the hypothesis gets tested by an experiment. So the honey fig wheat beer started with, we had made a honey wheat beer previously in the year. We had found that that beer was a really great tasting, complex wheat style ale, and I thought to make it better. And making it better, I thought could be achieved by using some locally sourced figs to match our locally sourced honey, and then also to ferment in an oak barrel instead of fermenting in a stainless steel container. So like these types of containers for fermentation, they don't impart any character one way or the other to the beer. In contrast, when you ferment in a barrel, there's a lot of barrel interactions with the beer. And so I decided to use Chardonnay barrels sourced from Central California. And then as a base beer, many breweries will use a base beer or a beer very similar to a beer that they make for starting with a specialty beer. And we use our wheat beer as the starting beer. And then I sanitized the honey by diluting it in water and warming it up to kill any native yeast that's in there. And then I did the same thing with the figs in order to elute all the sugar from the figs, and then also to sanitize the figs. And then we took rapidly fermenting wheat beer, added it to the barrel, poured in the honey, added some more beer to kind of mix that up into the fermenting beer, added the figs, added more beer to mix that up into the fermenting beer, and then we had a lot of foam on top of the barrel from all that transfer. So we waited till the foam collapsed and then filled the barrel up the rest of the way. And then we fermented for about a month further or so. And then we're taking the beer out of that, and then we're using a trick that many breweries do, and that is for carbonation. We're back blending that beer with about 20% well-carbonated wheat beer. And that gives a little life to the beer, so the beer is a little more, pizzazz, so to speak. So with the carbonation, it brings out aromas from the beer. It gives kind of a better mouthfeel, and those are the ideas that we had associated with the honey fig wheat beer. And it's part of an experiment that keeps interest in our brand with our enthusiasts and that people really enjoy. People work incredibly hard in the microbrewery trade. However, at the end of the day, you feel like you got something done. And I think that that is part and parcel of what the beer culture is. There's a beer culture from the side of the consumer, and there is a beer culture from the side of working at a brewery that makes this sort of a unique type of culture in the US.
Crute makes a convincing argument. If you want to test his theory or his experimental fig honey beer, you can do both this month at the Lightning Brewery in Poway.